Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are on the chipping green here at my home course, Isleworth Golf and Country Club. I'm going to take you around a few different shots around the green, how I play them, how I think I can help you play them to improve your scores no matter what handicap you are. So come with me, we're going to hit a bunch of different shots, different grasses, different clubs, and you might learn a thing or two. Obviously we're in Florida, so one of the most common things that you're going to encounter in Florida is grain. So we'll start here with a pretty basic shot. I'm just below the level of the green, but I've got tons of green to work with. So this is where I think the first tip comes into play, and what I do to practice when I start my practice session, I get a tee. I put it in the butt of the club there like that. All right, so that's going to be kind of my reference point. I'm going to do my best to always keep that tee pointed at my belt buckle. You'll probably see it more from this angle, but I'm going to hit this shot. This is going to be the most simple shot that we're going to practice, and it's going to be very dead hands. And the idea is that if I were to break my wrist this way, that tee's pointing over there, and if I were to break my wrist this way, that tee's pointed over there. So I just want to keep that right at kind of my belly button or buckle the whole way, and that gets rid of any lean, any flick like that. I just want to keep that and keep the chest rotating with it. So I'll show you here. I think the most important two things here is obviously that tee at the belt buckle. On a standard shot like this, I want to get the handle quite high too. I'm going to get close to it, get the handle quite high, and it's literally just going to be like a little rock of the shoulders. So it should look something like this. This applies to tour players and applies to 10 handicaps, 20 handicaps. We most of the time pick shots that are too hard. And I think this shot, you probably use this 80 to 85% of the times around the green, and it's going to be a pretty easy shot for you to at least get on, if not very, very close or in. So kind of if you just flick around this way for 1 sec, keep an eye on that tee as I kind of move through, and watch how I really try and keep that, especially in the finish, just kind of in this way. I don't want anything kind of held off this way, and on this shot I don't want anything kind of really let go of. So just kind of keep an eye on there, that tee. And what that does is it just stops any lean, so you're not going to get that dig. So I would say that is the easiest shot to play for everybody around the greens, and I think that is one, if the lie is bad, if you're a bit nervous, that is the one you go to. So that's shot number one. Shot number two, so as you can see, a little less green to work with. For this one, you're going to want to read your lie, because how you play this shot is going to be very determined by your lie. If my ball ended up here in this sand and kind of sparse grass, I'm going to play it very different to this ball here that is kind of sitting a little bit nicer. So what are we going to change? To hit this ball high, you can go one of two ways. You can either stick with the more dead hands method, which is completely fine. What I would say the adjustments are from that last shot is it's going to be a little bit further away from the ball, your handle is going to be a bit lower, and the face is going to be open. Other than that, you can keep a pretty similar dead hands motion, and you're going to get more height out of that. So that's going to look a little bit like this. And I use this shot a lot if I'm maybe under pressure, there's more nerves, I don't like to lie. It's a bit more reliable because you've taken the wrist out of this action. You can see I'm just a little further, handle's a little lower. And that's just going to have a little bit more height and a little bit more spin. So that's a great option. The other thing you can do, and this I'll generally use in probably more like California or places where the grass is a little bit better, but on this action here, you need a good lie. But this one, we're actually going to slide the face a little open, so that's going to be this logo to the sky a little bit. And same with this tee, I'm keeping this tee in as a visual, but I want that tee to come back to neutral by the time we get, I can't have any drag, and I can't have this bottom out early like this. I've got to get rid of that and get that back to neutral by the time I get to impact, and then from there on I can then release it. It's just going to be a little bit softer with the hands. And you're probably going to get a little bit more height out of that one just because of the wrist hinge that you have there. I actually didn't play that one quite the way I wanted. It was a decent shot actually. Didn't come out the way I wanted. But you're almost, the feel I think here, and the feel that I try and feel, is almost like from the top of the backswing, it's the club head that goes first, as opposed to pulling on the handle. So I want to feel like the club head's almost heavy and it falls that way. So that's going to be kind of the feel here. And you can kind of just see that slide under. I think for most people, the more dead hands, you don't have to be completely dead hands, but it's going to be just a little bit more reliable. If you look at that from the front on, obviously the body's going to be very involved in that shot. And if you fat it like that, it still works out okay. All right, so this one's a bit more specific to Florida, but as you can see, very, very grainy. So this is people who play on Bermuda and those sorts of grasses. So shot none of us like is into the grain. I think a lot of us get stuck here or worried about this lie. I think the most important thing into the grain is that you choose your shot before you go. You do not want to get caught in between, because if you bottom out early, you're not going to have the same forgiveness as maybe I had over here. Saying all that, there's a few different ways to play it. A way that a lot of people play it, I don't like this way personally, but it is a way to play it, and you'll see a lot of pros play it, is back in the stance and kind of a chop down on the ball. So that's going to be that way, and obviously you don't have much versatility there. Like, that is purely a low shot and there's no margin for error. You better get that contact right or that ball's not going to come out very nice. Now, things that I like to do, I've got a couple options from there. If you need the ball to come out with some softness and you're into the grain, I call this like the lazy hand shot. So I'm going to grip the club of what feels like a 1, like almost like the club could fall out of my hands. And I'm really going to, from the top, feel lazy as I can kind of with the hands and let the club head really pass and be shallow. That's going to take some of the speed out of the ball flight if you need to into the grain. So that's going to look a little bit something like this, like really, really light in the hands. And it's got a real kind of soft, floaty flight, which I think is a great shot to have. If you struggle to get the club gripping that soft, maybe you got some anxiety over it, one tip that I have is that I will often take the last finger of my glove hand off of the club. So it'll kind of be a 9-finger grip, and all that does is allow the grip to be even looser and for the hand to go even, or for the club to pass the hands even easier. So if I show you that now, I'm going to take that pinky finger off of the club. And you can see kind of the softness there. I prefer that way. That is the way that you would find me playing that shot most of the time. But the last way is, once again, we'll go back to a bit more of a dead hands feel. We're really going to get the handle high. We're going to get that toe down into the ground, get that right under the ball, handle really, really high, and you're just going to feel like the low point is really long. Like you almost just brush the grass from back there. The handle high, and you just kind of let that chase out. So I think those are important to have, especially if you're in a place with very grainy lies. And that doesn't even necessarily have to be grain. Those shots there apply to, I think, bad lies in general. So hard panned, maybe some sandy lies, just dead lies, anything like that. That can be very useful out of those. It doesn't have to be grain. For me, in Florida, it happens to be grain, but that can be used kind of anywhere as well. All right, so we've talked about into the grain. We've talked about a little bit of a higher shot, not a big flop or anything, but a little bit of a higher shot, and then just a very, very standard shot. Now, this is a shot that tour players don't practice a lot of, including myself, and I need to be better at it, and I think everyone at home could be too. But just a simple to the back pin, I've got pitching wedge in my hand, and the same concept as a simple shot, tee in the back. You don't want to, just because you got a pitching wedge, you hit a bump and around, feel like you're going like this. You're still gonna dig. So I still want the tee to be kind of feeling like it's always at that belt buckle. The less loft on a pitching wedge versus 60 is what's going to make the ball roll. You don't need to de-loft it any more than it already is. So we're just hitting that back pin, going to try and chase it up that ridge. So it's going to be very basic. Weight just a little bit more forward, probably like a 70-30 kind of feel. And then it's really just keeping that. Pretty good. I need to practice this one more. I need to use this more in tournaments. It's too easy to pull out the 60 or the 56 and try and like hit it into the slope with some spin. It is very simple to just pop this on. And get it to run up that ridge nice and close. So I think that is the most basic shot. to learn. I think that gives you really good fundamentals to when you then move into more loft. If you can keep that tee kind of at you the whole time, that's going to be a really good way to practice for when then you do add loft. I'd keep those same fundamentals throughout. So that's what I try and feel on all of these. And yeah, I mean, it's a great into the grain shot too, because a pitching wedge is going to have a lot of bounce. So even if you were to get yourself in something sandy or something like this, which is not great, of course, you can kind of just feel like you scrape along the ground. And still are able to make decent contact and hit it up there. So that's going to be a shot that everyone at home can probably implement the easiest, and is super important to have. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is the rough. So the biggest part of the rough is going to be less technique and more about reading the lie, I would say. So I've kind of put together a couple lies here. So this first one is what you sometimes get on Bermuda if it's not maybe this long, but it sits right on top. And it looks really nice. It looks like I can play the shot that I want. And to a certain extent you can, but you've got to be careful because the ball will often come out really high on the face and come out with no speed. It'll kind of come out dead and short. So the most important part of this lie that's sitting way on top is I want that arc to be as wide as possible. I almost want you to feel like you're bottoming out back here and you're almost dragging the club across the top. You don't want any sort of steepness or the ball's going to come out really high on the face. So kind of like that dead hand shot we talked about before, just really kind of shallow and long, and it should just get the ball coming out a little flatter, but you should get the contact more in the middle of the face. You go over here, this is not sitting on the bottom, but it's not a good lie. It's sitting kind of halfway down. So the way I'm going to play this is obviously I'm not going to catch ball first, I'm going to catch grass. So I've got to create a little bit more speed. I've got to feel like I'm hitting this ball maybe 7 or 8 yards past the hole. I'm going to go pretty dead hand technique here. I want my wrist to be maybe like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I don't want them to break down at impact when I get that kind of friction with the rough. So I definitely want to have like a firmer grip pressure than I'd like to play on most of my shots, so that really just stays nice and constant throughout. So that's just going to look a little bit more like this. And even that one came out a little bit dead. Now the hard one is you do get this in Bermuda, especially when they don't cut it, is that ball can sit right on the base and you almost lose it. These are the ones that you get like, they send like the US Open rough and stuff like that. So this is now sitting on the bottom. I got nothing underneath it, but I got a whole lot of grass behind it. I'm not going to go dead hands here. It's going to be too shallow. I'm not going to get down into the ball. So I actually feel like I pick up the club a little bit, and I'm going to feel like I slap the bounce. And that is a tough concept for people to get sometimes. But the feeling of that is like this part of the club, the toe, the back toe, is the part of the club that is going to hit the ground. So there's no dig, because obviously if I slap the ground that way, I'm going to dig. So I want to slap that back toe to get the ball to pop up. Now this shot, doesn't matter how good you are, is unpredictable. You're hitting so much grass before you hit the ball, so you can't beat yourself up. But you're going to need speed, and you're going to need to pop it out like that. So face open, really hit down on that part. And that is the best out of all of those 3 shots for me. But like I said, that's the most unpredictable. You need speed, you need an open face, and you cannot throw the leading edge of the ground. Those are the 3 main points for those horrible lies, especially in Bermuda rough, but that applies to all rough. Last shot that I'm going to talk about today, and like I said, if you guys want to go into more depth about any of these shots, drop some comments of what you want to see more of. I'm happy to do some more videos on short game or any part of the game, and kind of give you my thoughts on how I think about these. So last one for today though is the bunker shot. I'm in a very deep bunker here and I'm short-sighted, and this is a tough shot, there's no doubt about it. So here are some keys to how I play this shot. So big wide stance first of all, and that's most important. I think, or at least where I see a lot of people go wrong, is they open the face, and that's good. Look where the face is pointed, it's way over there. So what I like to do that's different to that is get that base at the target. So what I've got to do is drop that handle way back until I'm at the target. So now I'm square here. The handle looks ridiculous, but that's effectively out of a bunker where you want to return it to. You don't want any lean out of a bunker. So first thing, wide stance, handle back, face at the target. The last little key to that is I get my right hand way on top, really weak. Couple reasons for that. One, it's you can't close the face down. 2, I feel like I get really good pressure on the shaft. So to be able to throw the shaft, I get really good kind of pressure this way. So those are my key kind of tips. And from there, I'm just gonna tons of speed and throw the club head as fast as possible. So it should look a little bit like this. Go one more. That was a bit unlucky. And then you can just adjust. So how I'll hit the ball further or shorter out of a bunker is then different. There's so many variations. Another thing that I'll say is I'm squaring up the face, but I'm not squaring up my stance. My stance is going to be quite closed. The reason for that is it makes me stay in it with my body more. If I'm open, I feel like I sometimes go this way to kind of push it at the target or help it up. So I'm going to have a very closed stance with that too. Nice and low. And those are all pretty good. The only adjustment, if you want to hit it a little further out of the bunker, say to a different pin, the adjustment that I would make is a little squarer face, a little narrower stance, stand a little bit taller, and do the same thing. Still, I don't want this handle ever being in front. I'd still like to be quite neutral there. And this will just be quite a little bit of a lower shot. And I should just run a little bit more. You'll know you're getting it right if the ball's launching high. If you can get a bunker shot high in the air, you know you're onto something. As you can probably see, I'm not at the course filming this outro, I'm actually at home, but I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone for tuning into this video and all the videos prior. I really appreciate the support that I've had. Hopefully this video helps your chipping. I'll be sure to do more and more videos on my practice routines, things that can help you guys. I got a bunch of cool content coming, so make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on Ryan Ruffles Golf. Cheers.